What's up, YouTube? It is me again, and I uploaded the video earlier this week of doing a tumbled stone wire wrap, and it got me thinking about that wrap and how much time it took, and I've just been spending a lot of time thinking about wrapping tumbled stones in general. Some of the feedback I got was that people don't typically tackle tumbled stones right off the bat when they get into wire wrapping, so that was kind of an unusual thing for me to kind of start with that, but that's what I had, and so that's what I started with. So I thought, well, what is an ideal tumbled stone? Like, what do you want to get into, or what do you want to avoid when you're looking through your tumbled stones? What makes sense? So I thought I'd do another variant of the tumbled stone wire wrap. This one is a little bit more ideal. This is a lapis lazuli, I believe. And if you look at it, it's kind of a weird shape, but the biggest thing it has going for it is that it's flat. This is pretty close to a cabochon shape. This will be a fairly quick wrap compared to the quartz wrap we did the other day, which was massive and very strangely shaped and just led to a lot of difficulty getting it wrapped. In the end, it still was a really neat piece, but I just wanted to show you another way to do this. Also want to use some different wire. We did the round wire the other day on the smoky quartz, and we're going to use square wire on this one. It'll be square wire, 20 gauge, and 20 gauge half round, and we might use a little 28 gauge to secure the bail. We'll just see how it goes. But and another thing we'll do in this video that's a little bit different than the other one is I'll make the full corded necklace at the end. So if you don't want to stick around for this part where we wrap the stone, skip to the end and check out my technique for making a cord, and we'll get right into this. Trying a slightly different camera angle that might be more friendly for you guys as people watching. 11 inches of square wire, 20 gauge square, but it's a little bit more difficult for me to work around, so we're gonna go for a compromise. You might have some difficulty seeing me cutting wires and doing things slightly out of frame, but you'll be able to see me wire wrapping a little bit more easily, I think. So 11 inches, 20 gauge square. All right, and we're gonna go for half round to wrap the middle. I try to line the square wires up together and get them nice and flat and square, but it's not always easy to do that, and sometimes it's basically impossible. Alright, I'm going to try to stay in the frame because they just seem to want to move all over, so I just kind of let them do what they're going to do and don't worry too much about it. And I've rarely I fret a lot about it when I'm doing it, but then after it's finished, I never go back and look at it and go, oh man, that square wire, it sure twisted weird. It just always ends up looking nice. Just a cool wire shape. And I always end up doing it kind of wonky right there. But I can fix it. So another one of those skill things. I think if you get a little bit of experience with the square wire and the half round, you can wind it around here without any excess hanging off, and you can pull it tight the whole time. I'm still working on that, and I think that's about what we'll do. I think that's 7 loops, 7 or 8's normal for me. Let's figure out what we're going to do with this stone. I think this is going to be the front. Yeah, okay. Kind of like the look of it like this. So we're probably going to end up with the base of this kind of going somewhere a little bit strange. It's not going to go around a corner. That just doesn't seem to work well for me. So we're going to end up just kind of basically taking the entire wrap that we normally do and shifting it a little bit 45 degrees. So anyway, that's going to work for this part. I'm going to go ahead and line these up and trim them. You'll have to excuse the background noise. My washer and dryer are nearby, and it's not always an ideal situation. Sometimes the laundry has to be done while the projects are taking place. Okay. And I usually do one center wrap, and then I'll do two on the sides. And this piece will be no different. It's just a matter of where we're going to place them. And like I said in my last video, the number of wraps I use kind of varies, but usually I'll have more in the bottom center and then fewer on the sides, just because of I like the way it looks. But you can do whatever you like. But the less space there is between the wires to hold the stone in, the harder it is to bend those wires. So if you wrap this around really close to this one, you're going to have some trouble when it comes to bending the wires away from each other and holding the stone in. Okay. So we did about 6 wraps of half round on that side. We've got 7 in the middle. We'll do another 6 up here. Or if we're feeling really creative today, maybe we'll do a different number on this side. Who knows? We're wrapping rocks. We're going wild. We're going to choose random numbers because that's what we're doing. Also, I heard there's some kind of super crazy moon out tonight. So definitely check it out. People who are into metaphysical stuff with rocks, tonight's the night. Take your rocks out, charge them, whatever you're into. And if nothing else, take a look at that moon. It should be really a spectacular night for that. This is another reason why I don't like long format videos. What do you say while you're working? It's fun to just sit and work, but can't help but talk. Okay, so we've got the 3 sections wrapped, and then I'm going to form them around the stone. I'm going to use my trusty phenolic block. Anything would work for this. This is just double-sided tape, which I need to freshen up. You have to be careful with the tape and putting the stone on the tape. If you have a certain type of stone that's got different pieces that look like they're joined together rather than something solid, you have to be aware of how you're removing the stone. You want to be gentle. You can break a stone to pieces pulling it off a block like this taped down. It's really secure and works really well, but you just have to be careful. So that's your warning. Alright, I'm usually sliding these around pretty easily, but today they're fighting me a little bit. So I think we're going to end up doing something like this. We're just going to go for it, and then I'll move things around as needed. This is always one of the trickier parts of the whole thing. It's just getting that frame to lay where you want it to go the first time. I think I'm going to go right above that bend right there. And slide it back down. And remember where we let the top wires up here overlap each other without getting tangled into each other. Makes things work out a lot better. Okay, so this stone's really strangely shaped. There's a lot of dips in the sides. It's not flat. So as we work on it, we're going to try to push the wire tighter to it, but right now we're just going to, the most important thing is we're putting these half round wraps where we want them, so I think you guys can see that. And now I'm going to bend these wires back at the top, somewhere towards the center of where I'm going to want the top center of this thing to be. And then we're going to wrap that together. And that should work pretty well. I cracked a jasper stone on double-sided tape about a month ago. So I've been very careful since then. And I don't think I was even putting that much pressure onto it. It could have been a flaw in the stone that I just didn't know was there until I was putting some weird pressure on it, but here we are. Okay. And like I said, this part's always kind of tricky for me. And a lot of times I'll do a wrap like this and then I'll go back and tighten it later if I don't like how it turns out. Because sometimes it's just hard to put the right amount of tension on the half round wire right here. But this one looks like it's going to go pretty well. So, alright, now you can do some creative things with these half round tails that hang off, so I recommend leaving them on there for a little while and thinking about some things you could do with them. At the very least, you could incorporate them into the bail, which is probably what I'll end up doing, but you could always, maybe if you're doing some decorative curls or something later on, you can use the tails to lock them in to the frame. So there we go. We got one side of the tail wrapped through the frame twice, and I'll go ahead and trim that to where the end is inside the frame against the stone. If I can get in there. There we go. So if you're just getting into wire wrapping and you're not sure what kind of wire to buy, if you're going for speed, it's hard to argue, or I don't see how you couldn't feel that the square wires with the half round are the way to go. It's just a lot faster way of going. It seems to lock the stones in with a lot less fuss, and I like them. I like the half round wires, and I also really like the look because you get some ability to do some different things like twist the wire for different looks. Okay, so I've got my stone set back in place. I'm going to try to form the frame a little bit closer to the shape of the stone. And you can use your pliers to do this, or you can use your fingers, whatever. And that's pretty well good enough right there. And we've got two wires in the front, which I'll bend down a little bit. Then we have two wires going out the back. And I'm bending these down because I'm going to lock the stone in place now. And if you leave them straight, you can pull the wires back through. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and lock this in. This is the back. I'm pulling in the side between the two half round wraps. I can tell that this other side is going to be a little bit more tricky because there's just such little space here between the two wires. So I'm going to pull this up a little bit more to give myself enough space to bend this wire back too. So there we go. That pulled that back a little bit. Then we'll do the front the same way. We don't want to pull as much wire to the front because we don't want to cover up the face of the stone, but we have to lock it in, so we have to pull it a little bit forward. Okay, got that side pulled in a little bit, and this one right here is probably going to be the one that really holds it all in. So there we go. Really make sure that I have all I can get here. This little wire right here is a little tight, but we can get it. Okay. And that's looking nice. I'm gonna go ahead and form the bail. Now remember, we're keeping it simple. So that means single wires, bent and curled with no additional weaving or anything like that. This is just a simple little functional wrap. If you've got a nice flat tumbled stone and you'd like to wear it as a necklace, this is an easy way to go. I like to form my bails with my little ring gauge thing. I cannot remember the name of this tool for the life of me, but any hobby store that sells jewelry will have these. And just pick the ring size that you like. That works. You don't even need that gauge if you don't want to use it. And there we go. Just something simple. I'm going to do a curl here and a curl here and lock that into the back. I guess we are going to end up using some 28 gauge, about 6 inches of 28 gauge wire. If you're just buying stuff specifically for this project, you could probably get the job done with half round. It's thin enough where you could probably do that. So, all right, we're going to get into the curling. I think this is called filigree. I'm trying to remember to quit making up words and descriptions for things I'm doing, because there probably are correct terms. Okay, I like the look of that. That works pretty well. We'll flush cut that. Push it flat. And I'm going to go ahead and lock that in. Now this is when you turn your quick project into not as quick of a project, because these little breaks to do stuff like this just eat up a lot of time. So if you saw my smoky quartz video, you saw me do this little move here about 6 or 8 times at least, and it just adds a ton of time to the piece, which isn't ideal if you're trying to make them and sell them. It's just it's a lot of time. But if you're just trying to make something that looks nice, this works really well. So I'm wrapping the curl to the frame. It's a little bit awkward, but we'll get into it. A little push pin can give me a gap because the steel that the pin's made of is stronger than the copper, so it can kind of fight its way into places the copper can't. And then usually after that first wire is pulled tight, you're good. But yeah, there we go. But you never know. You may have to use it and leave it there the whole time. And I pretty much just do 3 wraps every time, unless I pull one over so tight that I can't see it anymore. Then I'll do 4 wraps, because I like to have 3 visible wraps. Okay, so we're doing the frame alone. So let me take a break and show you guys. So we did 3 wraps here. Now we're wrapping it to the side, wrapping it to the other side. Now we're doing the other side of the frame, 3 wraps. I think the smoky quartz the other day was pretty much worst case scenario on tumbled stones. It was just awkward in every way it could possibly be awkward. So it makes a huge difference just selecting a flat stone. So, 3 wraps connecting the hoop to the frame, 3 wraps on each side. Now I will cut them and tuck them. That one might be a little long. I tried to explain it in the last video, but you want to cut the end of the wire in a length that's about the same as the thickness of the wire it's pushed up against, so it can kind of hide there without much issue. And there you go. There's one loop, so half the bail is secure. Now sometimes I'll have this other bail wire, it'll be really close to the other side, and so I'll bend the curl whichever direction I need to for it to kind of sit wherever it needs to sit. And I think I want to go kind of close with these, so I'm going to make this one work. I'm going to curl it to where both the curls are facing out. But I definitely face them in a lot of times too, if it makes sense. Just depends on the stone. Okay. And there's that one. And we're going to go into the 28 gauge. Again, 6 inches. And it's tight, so we're going to use our push pin again. Hope I'm not the only one making these videos that makes a mess as they go, because I definitely do. Especially if I've been working for a few days, 3 or 4 days, the wire just gets out of hand if you don't clean it up constantly. Alright, so we're securing the loop to the frame. You guys have to let me know what you think of the different camera angle. I expected to get a little bit of feedback on maybe not being so great in the first video, but I can't really tell how it's going to look until it's kind of live, because my video editor and everything, it's all pretty compact, but it seems like in the end it always ends up working out because of the higher definition upload. But when I'm doing the editing and everything, it's all kind of low res. And we're moving on to the sides of the curl to secure the curl to the frame. The filigree swirl, I will learn that word and say it. Also, when I do these videos, a lot of times the piece that you see me finish will be for sale in my Etsy shop. Usually, unless it's already got a home beforehand. One wrap there, 2 wraps, and 3. And then we'll cut it and tuck it. Try to pull it tight with the pliers just to give it a little extra. Now the stone's still kind of popping out the front, but not for long. We're gonna take care of that in a second. Okay. Now I typically secure the half round tail around the bail in some form, but not this time. We're gonna do it just like this. 2 wraps around that side of the bail. We'll cut it and tuck it. I hope to do some little bit more complicated projects in the near future and upload them, but we're starting out easy. So there we go. The back is secure, the stone's pulled in nice. And everything seems to be laying in place pretty good. I'm going to see if I can pull it out up top a little bit. I don't know if I can, but I'm going to try. Let's see. There it goes. Bent in a little bit. Try the other side. There we go. That works out pretty good. And let's see if I can pull them back a little bit too up top. Okay, that side pulled back. There we go. There. Okay, now we're looking for places the stone might escape from in the future. So the only places I can see that being a possibility would be out the front right here and then out this corner. So I'm going to do my wrap in such a way that I can add some extra security to those places and see how that works out. So this side of the bale, I'll probably just turn it in and cut it, but this one's going to be doing most of the work on this side. So let's get into it. And on the small piece, I like to kind of make these little curls up here pretty tight, just because it seems to make sense. And we'll do a, let's see. We'll do a curl right here. And I may secure that before going too much further. Now remember, I'm pushing the wire against where I want that curl to rest, and then I'm just adjusting the diameter by pulling the length of the wire. So now I'm worried about this opening down here, so I'm going to go ahead and just throw a curl down there, because that'll work pretty well to actually lock the stone in on the side. And it looks cool, because you've got a little bit of a different dimensions going on with the curls. They're not just laying across the front, they're laying everywhere. So I'll lock that in right there. Whoop. And then lock this curl in. We'll see how it kind of wants to lay. I think this is going to work out pretty well. I may have to get creative on locking these two pieces together. I may have to be locking the wire outside of the curl, but we'll see. Get back into my 28 gauge. Now ideally I could secure this curl to the frame right here, but I'm not too sure if that's going to work. Hey, look at that. That'll work. That's the look I was hoping to get. So now a lot of times when you start this weave, you kind of have to think about which direction you would like to feed the wire in, because I tend to do it better on one side than the other. So instead of feeding the wire in from the edge of the stone up into the curl, that would be pretty difficult. So you want to go from the curl and then out the stone, out the side of the stone. So you have to just remember, if you're struggling to feed the wire in one direction just to get started, just try the other direction. Wow, I just sent that piece of wire flying. Okay, now our wire's getting kinked up, so I'm going to trim it off. Wire is kind of going through the loop. I didn't need it to do that. I think that's going to work out really nicely. So now we're doing our 3 loops around the frame. We got our 3 loops from the loop to the frame, and now we're doing the sides. And I'll go ahead and trim that and tuck it, and then we'll try to loop the upper wire. Push that in. Get a close up of that. So we did the middle one, now we're doing the bottom, now we're going to move to the top. Now this one I might be stuck to where I have to come in from the edge, but at least I don't have to go into the loop. So get my trusty pin out, the Path Maker 5000 as I like to call it sometimes for fun. Yeah, that's not going to want to go in there, so may have to get creative on that one. Let me take a look at this real quick. So we're going to lay that guy in there. If you could just get the right twist of the hook at the end of the wire, that makes all the difference in the world. Okay, kind of a struggle there. Let's see what we can do. I'm going to go through the middle here. Alright. Well, we can do it differently. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to take this tail, and I'm going to use it to secure this other curl to the other side of the stone. This is not my favorite solution, but it's going to work and look just fine. So I'm going to go ahead and loop around this curl a couple times. You can see what I'm doing. This is the one that's going to be secured to the side. I'm going to do about 3 wraps on that. So if you can't see, I've taken this tail, wrapped it around the base of this other curl, and then I'm going to secure that to the back frame. Yeah, that should work. Well, let me think. Yeah, that'll work. And this is tight back here, so we're going to open it up. And I want to get the wire closer to the stone and not laying over the top of these frame wires. So when you're pulling in the wire like this, you have to be careful not to kink it. So kind of lay it down against the stone and put curls in it to make the bend a little bit more gentle. And if you get a kink, it's not the end of the world. Sometimes you can get it to hide under the frame, but if you can avoid it entirely, that's more ideal. I'm debating securing the tail a little bit differently, but I think that's going to work out nice. That looks good. It's amazing how you can kind of use the same techniques on tumbled stones, and they all still turn out completely unique from each other, because there's just no two that are the same. So anyway, there's the front, and I feel really good about the stone being secure right there, secure in the back, and we have one little guy left to do something with. This is when I break out the vice grips, give it a twist, Cool thing is you could do 4 or 5 wires and twist them different numbers of times, different directions, and get different looks. Just kind of adds some variation. That's cool. And I think I'm just going to go through the back of the bale. That works pretty well. And I don't want to cover this stone any more than I have. So I'd like to do something with this wire, but I don't know what. I might do a curl here and a curl here that are on the side of the frame and not directly in front of the stone, because I don't need them in there for security or anything now that the stone's locked in, but I want to make use of this wire. So we'll just did a little filigree swirl there, and we'll do one right here too. And we are going to have the fanciest looking little lapis stone ever. Another thing I like to think about when I'm doing stones like this, the tumbled stones that are not gem cut quality. It's just fun to think of the astronomical odds of this one piece of stone ending up wrapped up like this. I mean, there's just virtually no chance that this happens, but here we are. Kind of cool. Yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and cut that to where I can tuck in the... Well, I like the way it looks, so I'm going to leave that out. So, alright. In case you couldn't see, I'll get it closer. Brought that through the back of the bale, looped it twice on the side, and we're going to secure it to the side. And keep in mind, if you don't like the way things look, just do your own version. Maybe you would have not done this. Maybe you would have snipped it and tucked it before we got to this point. That's totally cool. Just do whatever your taste is. You don't have to do what I'm doing. You don't even have to like what I'm doing. That's all. It's all whatever you want to do. I'm gonna go ahead and secure this to the frame right here, and I think that's all I'm gonna need. We'll see. I may secure it up higher too, but I can see where I want it to be down here, and it's gonna be more difficult to put it there, so I'm gonna do it first. So as you're pulling these wires through, and you want them to loop through, it seems to be helpful to kind of pull the wire out and curl it as you pull it, so it gives you the curl you want to go the direction you want it to go. That's something I've been doing kind of subconsciously. Still can be a challenge, but here we are. Okay. Wire's not on the right side, but it's through, so we'll correct that. So the loop is secured to the frame. It's kind of on top of some other wires, but it's behind the stone, so that's not a big deal. You're not going to see it. And there was nowhere else in that area to secure it to anyway. So there wasn't really a better selection because we're doing a tiny little stone. Okay, and the 3 wraps are on the frame. Cut it and tuck it. Got a bit of a gap here, but can't really go anywhere. Okay. So we've got this other tail. think I'm just gonna wrap it around the curl because the frame's pretty crowded right here. This actually turned out a little bit more wire than I thought it would, but that's just because of the choices you make along the way. It kind of just becomes its own thing. There we have it. Cut it, push the tail down, tuck it with the pliers. Let me show it to you. So the curl is tied to the frame. And it feels pretty good and strong. Not going anywhere. Okay, let me clean up these wires real fast and then I'll show you how I do my cords lately. Okay, this is a 2mm leather cord that I got from Tandy Leather, and so far I like it. I like the way it feels. It does look like it is a casing with like filled with leather, you know, if that makes sense. It's almost like there's a separate case and a separate filling, but it does seem to be durable. It's strong, it looks nice, but that's just me being a guy that's into leather and nitpicking it. Certainly better than what you would buy at Walmart, and you get more of it as opposed to going to somewhere like Michael's or whatever and buying their leather lace that they sell. Haven't found the perfect solution here, but anyway, it's 24 inches long. What my understanding is that a very common necklace length is 20 inches. So cutting it at 24 gives us a couple inches on each end to work with. And I'm going to lose a little bit of length because I like to use this little method that I just came up with the other day. I've had necklaces snap and bring the fitting off of the lace, so I've changed the lace that I use to more of a cord. I've had fittings become uncrimped, homemade fittings that you kind of loop around and you crimp them. I've had those crimps fail and the pieces fall off, so I've come up with this method. And there's probably going to be a failure point that I figure out at some point that I'll change, but for now I'm eliminating some of those failures with this little design here. Now I take some 20 gauge half round, the same stuff we've been wrapping the rocks with, and I loop the cord around itself and I use the half round to secure the cord to itself. And I put as much tension on this as I can right here because it makes a big difference. And then I just take the ends and tuck them into the cord like that, and then I'll go back and tighten the other side because that seems to be just how I end up using half round every time. And you want it to tuck kind of into the middle of the cord so it doesn't snag anything, and then press everything kind of flat, flip it over, do the same. And then that's what it looks like. And that is reasonably tough. You can also get by doing this with 28 gauge wire, but I like to use the half round. But it's not uncommon for me to do it either way, so go for it. And if you come up with your own method or have something that you haven't seen posted anywhere before that you like, you know, feel free to share. I'm always trying to come up with something quicker, easier, stronger, because most of the focus on the necklaces is just the pendant, and the cord is just kind of something you just got to do, or you don't have to do. You could just do the pendants alone, but it's nice to be able to sell someone something that they can just grab and put right on. And I try to finish these both on the same side, but I don't. That's probably nitpicking. Rails are tucked. Flatten the rest of it, flip it, do it again. And that's my technique for making a cord that isn't going to slide out of the hardware. Now, what is the hardware going to be? I use jump rings on one side, which this is a jump ring that I've made with 16 gauge copper using my pliers, and I just looped it around and pushed it against the plier as I looped it. And then I end up making a little coil spring like this. I pull it off, and then I flush cut each ring individually. Sometimes I get a little burr on the end, so I'll cut it off best I can. Open it up, slide it through, close it. Now that's 16 gauge copper. That is pretty heavy stuff as far as copper goes. Another thing I'll do sometimes if I'm worried about something moving is give it a little bit of a work hardening by putting it on the edge of my anvil, or the flat of my anvil here, and just giving it a little bit of tap. And flip it and do it again. Move it around since it's a circle. You can do this before you attach it if you're even smarter than me. And there we go. There's the loop. And now we need the hook. The hook, you're not going to want to use 16 gauge for the hook because that's just really thick stuff. If you can manage, do it because it's strong, but I use 18 gauge. It's thicker than the 20 gauge, but it's not as thick as the 16 because the 16 is too tough, 20 seems to be too soft. So I'll use the slightly thicker end of my round nose pliers to make a loop here, and that's the loop that's going to secure it to the let me go ahead and cut this off. I don't do this normally, but this will be the loop that secures the hook to the cord. And then I'll use my baling pliers and kind of grab it with a little bit of a end hanging off, form it to the baling plier like that, pull that off, get the smaller end of my round nose pliers, bend that straight, wire the opposite direction until it's pretty tight, and look like that. Kind of looks confusing, but once you do it a couple times, it becomes more, it just makes more sense. So, and there we go. Doesn't look like much, but it works. And then we kind of flatten it, open it, and this will be the cord end. It needs to be big because the cord's big, and then that's just a little filigree hook on the other end, which you don't need, but it looks nice and it doesn't give you a sharp point. Now we're gonna harden this bad boy a little bit. We learned to do this before putting it on the cord after our last little piece. Now you could probably do some more beating on it than that, but it doesn't matter to me for this purpose. So do that. Close it up. There we go. Something you might want to think about is if you need to put the hardware on after the cord is ran through the necklace, because I didn't think about that until now. So let's see what happens. So looks like we'll make it. Maybe. I find the hook is usually more easy to slip through tight places, but and that's it. Quick reminder: 2mm cord, 20mm half round, or 20 gauge half round, 16 gauge jump ring here, 18 gauge hook, and I really like this combination. I think it works really well. And now we got our little tumbled lapis pendant with some pretty wild looking curls on it, so it looks really neat. And that's kind of the whole point, I guess, really. But anyway, hope you guys like the video. Keep watching, let me know what you think. Check out my Etsy shop if you want to support me or support the channel. Get something from me so I don't, you know, have to stop making these just because it doesn't make sense. Because it's a lot of time filming, making the thing, editing the thing. So you know, help me out, show me some support. And you guys have been awesome, and I really enjoy making the videos and hope you guys stick around. Thanks for watching.